What is the one thing that so many Australian business owners dread? Without a doubt, it's the BAS, otherwise known as the Business Activity Statement.
In this video, I'll break it down and you'll learn what a BAS is in plain English, who needs to lodge and who doesn't, the difference between BAS and IAS, how to lodge your BAS via portal, software or agent. We'll look at a step-by-step real-life example and much more.
By the end, BAS won't be a mystery. It'll be something you can handle with confidence.
The Business Activity Statement is a form that the ATO uses to have businesses report and pay certain taxes. Depending on your situation, your BAS might include GST, that's Goods and Services Tax, the big one for most, PAYG withholding, which is tax withheld from employees' wages, PAYG instalment, which is the prepayment towards your own income tax, and other taxes including fringe benefits tax, luxury car tax, and fuel tax credits.
Not all of these apply to every business, but if you are GST registered, you'll be lodging BAS every quarter at a minimum. Here's something that confuses a lot of people. Some businesses lodge BAS, others lodge IAS. So what's the difference? BAS, Business Activity Statement, that's for businesses that are registered for GST. It covers GST, PAYG, and sometimes FBT and other taxes.
So who needs to lodge BAS? The rule is simple. If your turnover is over $75,000 per annum, you must register for GST. And once you're registered, you must lodge a BAS.
And here's the issue. Even if your sales are zero and you had no activity, the ATO still expects a BAS lodged. Most small businesses lodge their BAS quarterly. Large businesses might lodge monthly, and a few micro businesses can lodge annually. That's very rare.
The BAS deadlines are Quarter 1, 28th of October, Quarter 2, the 28th of February, Quarter 3, the 28th of April, and Quarter 4, the 28th of July.
Miss these dates and the ATO can issue some hefty penalties. Next, we'll look at the options that you have for lodging a BAS. The first option is lodging online with the ATO through the business portal. Another option is lodging through your accounting software like QuickBooks or Xero. The final option is to lodge through a registered tax agent or BAS agent.
Here's the thing, agents often have an extension beyond the standard deadlines. That can be a lifesaver if you're juggling cash flow or behind with your paperwork. So what's included in your BAS? First, we have the GST. That's the GST that you've collected from your customers, less the GST credits from purchases. Then we have pay-as-you-go withholding, the tax withheld from employee wages, and pay-as-you-go instalments, prepayments towards your tax. Then there's FBT instalments and industry extras like luxury car tax, wine equalisation, and fuel tax credits. Most small businesses mainly deal with GST and pay-as-you-go. Now let's move on and talk about cash versus accrual reporting. Here's the thing, when you register for GST, you choose how to report. On a cash basis, you report GST when you actually receive or pay the money. On the accruals basis, you report GST when invoices are issued, even if unpaid. Most small businesses choose cash. It avoids paying GST before you're paid. But some larger businesses are required to use the accruals basis. Let's run some numbers. Let's say you invoice clients $110,000, including $10,000 in GST. You also have expenses of $55,000, including $5,000 in GST. On your BAS, you'll report GST collected of $10,000, GST credits of $5,000, and you'll pay a net GST of $5,000 on that BAS. And here's the ATO rule. If you don't have the records, you can't make the claim. Here's the records that you must keep. Tax invoices for sales and purchases, payroll records if you withhold pay-as-you-go withholding, logbooks for vehicle claims, and copies of lodged BASs. And you must keep these records for 5 years. If you miss a deadline, the ATO charges failure to lodge penalties and general interest charges on the unpaid amounts.
If you can't pay, ignoring it is the worst thing you can do. If you lodge, the ATO will often agree to a payment plan, but only if you engage early. Now let's talk about a client. Tom, he read a cafe. He thought BAS was only for big business. He ignored BAS for nearly 2 years.
The ATO issued what's called a default assessment. That's their guess at what he owed. And of course, they guessed high. Suddenly, Tom owed tens of thousands that he didn't have. We reconstructed his records, modged correctly, and cut the debt in half. The stress almost broke him, but relief came after everything was back on track. Here are some common BAS mistakes: forgetting to lodge because there was no activity, claiming GST on personal purchases, mixing business and personal bank accounts, choosing accrual reporting when running out of cash, not setting aside the GST as you go, and thinking fuel for the family holiday is deductible because it's not.
Here are some practical tips to make BAS easier that will help you avoid the stress spiral. Use software like Xero or QuickBooks to track your GST and pay as you go.
And reconcile your accounts at least weekly, not just quarterly. Transfer your GST into a separate bank account as you go, so regularly do that every week. And get a tax agent. They can get longer to lodge and also keep you compliant.
BAS isn't just numbers. There's a fear of getting it wrong and the stress of finding the money to pay. Here's the thing, once you have assistance in place, BAS becomes routine. You stop dreading it and start controlling it. That confidence is priceless. Please remember that this is general advice only. Your business might have different BAS requirements depending on your structure and industry. If you're one of my clients, let's cover this in your complimentary next tax time meeting, or book a chat if you want at any time.
Let's recap. BAS is required if you're GST registered. It covers GST, pay-as-you-go, and sometimes other taxes. It must be lodged quarterly and sometimes monthly. You should choose cash or accrual carefully as it impacts your cash flow. Records must be kept for 5 years, and with the right systems, BAS doesn't have to be stressful.
Drop a comment below. What's your biggest BAS challenge? I'd love to hear it. And don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and sign up to be notified of my YouTube weekly business tips. The link is in the description. I'll see you next time.